welcome to a brand new episode of the podcast entitled Couch Potatoes Unite! ! This is a podcast based on a blog of the same name because where you lead, Couch Potatoes Unite will follow for a year in the life because that is our name. Okay, I'm done. I'm the blogger in question and the self-styled chief couch potato. My name is Kylie and I love TV. If you feel the same, keep listening and or checking out the blog at couchpotatoesunite.wordpress.com as you're bound to find some common ground or something you like. For at Couch Potatoes Unite, we're all about the wonders and unique long-form storytelling of the small screen. CPU! Hopes you've been following releases of brand new episodes of the podcast on Wednesdays, as well as new blog entries on some Tuesdays, and as always, we have several more new episodes on the way. Because the panelists and I live lives behind our podcast, the episodes are published once per week. Subscribe to the blog or the podcast via iTunes, Stitcher Radio, and via Google Play to stay on top of brand new episodes. Episodes already published discuss a variety of shows around the water cooler, including but not limited to Broadchurch, New Girl, Game of Thrones, Marvel Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Gotham, Supernatural, The 100, Once Upon a Time, Stranger Things, and the Arrowverse, including Arrow, The Flash, Legends of Tomorrow, and Supergirl. We've published several multi-part looking back to look forward series, including The X-Files from its inception through its revival and our Fuller House series. Plus, more episodes are in the works, including revisits for Doctor Who, How to Get Away with Murder, Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, and our American Horror Story series covering Roanoke, a revisit to our Marvel's Defender series where we talk Iron Fist, final visits with our Grimm and Vampire Diaries panels to say goodbye to these long-running and ending series in two-part episodes. Plus, we'll be launching new panels covering Sense8, new series examining Sherlock, and an anniversary retrospective about the Buffyverse covering Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Angel. And because we also look back at the shows now past, we'll be looking back at Glee, Person of Interest, and Third Rock from the Sun. What's more, CPU from time to time goes live. We've appeared at Comedy Outlet Mondays at Dog Story Theater and at Grand Rapids Comic-Con in Grand Rapids, Michigan while streaming live on Facebook. More live appearances are being planned, so make sure you like us at our Facebook page, our Twitter, follow us at CPU Podcast, our Instagram at Couch Potatoes Unite, and or our Pinterest at CPU Podcast, or subscribe to the blog, our YouTube channel, our iTunes channel, our Stitcher Radio channel, or find us on Google Play. In the meantime, if you don't hear your show in this podcast format, fellow panelists and I still write reviews, and we're always seeking new panelists, so if you have any interest in joining the discussion, say hello by finding us at any one of those outlets aforementioned. At the very least, stop by and leave us a thumbs up, comment, or review. We like feedback. Just don't do it the way Kirk does it, because you just won't get a very good response. I mean, that's what we learned, right? Today's panelists are continuing with a new miniseries we have focusing on a cult favorite romantic dramedy that first enjoyed a popular following on the WB and then the CW before coming to none other than Netflix in a revival series event. As much as I love TV, however, sometimes others love certain TV way more than I do. Also, I moderate a lot, in case you haven't noticed. And also, in case you haven't noticed, we have some very loyal CPU panelists who appear on a lot of our panels, probably because they love TV too. They can tell you, though. I won't speak for them. Well, today our most frequent panelist takes the moderating mic, again, because in my estimation, her passion for this series, or this series of shows that we're going to discuss, far exceeds mine, so it's a good fit. You might have heard our moderator before on the looking back portion of this series, as well as our How to Get Away with Murder panel and our Fuller House series panel, where she is moderated. But she's also a frequent panelist and is a voice on at least 3/4 of our active panels. There's so many lists, you just need to check out our website and look at the list of all CPU panelists page in the page brought up under the left dialog box floating in the header, the picture of the TV watcher, and there you'll find all the many shows she's on. She'll be moderating this series, and we're now going to be talking about the second portion of it, which is Gilmore Girls, A Year in the Life. So, as I was a panelist on the first one, I'm a panelist now, and I'm just going to pass the microphone back to Kristen. Hi, Kristen!
Hi, Kylie! Thanks for having me back to moderate yet again.
Of course!
So, today we are around the water cooler talking about Gilmore Girls, A Year in the Life, a Netflix original series that premiered in its entirety on November 25th, 2016. And because this is a Netflix original, it is only legally available to watch on Netflix. They really should give us some kind of kickback for every time we talk about a Netflix series.
We cover so many.
Like all of them.
I know, practically.
So Gilmore Girls, A Year in the Life picks up in real time after the close of the original series in 2007. So we are currently, 2016, 2017, so approximately 9 years later. Our favorite Gilmore Girls, Lorelai, Rory, and Emily, played by Lauren Graham, Alexis Bledel, and Kelly Bishop, are reeling in the death of patriarch Richard, played by the late, great Edward Herrmann. This mini-event series follows the girls over the course of a year, as suggested by the title, through love, loss, relationships, and finding yourself. This series is a little different than a traditional television series because they had 4 essentially mini-movies. It started with winter, spring, summer, and ended with fall. And thankfully, much to the viewer's delight, all of the original cast, both large and small, even megastar Melissa McCarthy, who played Suki, returned to Stars Hollow, even if only for a brief cameo for this event. And today I have brought the Gilmore Girls panel back to discuss this special little series and see if we love it as much, or maybe more than, the original. As always, it should be noted that all of the panelists have viewed Gilmore Girls: A Year in the Life in its entirety, and we may discuss sensitive plot points. So for those listeners who haven't yet watched A Year in the Life, listen at your own risk because there will be major, major spoilers. There's one in particular that is a major spoiler.
It's very major, isn't it?
It is very major. All right, welcome back, Gilmore Girls panel.
Hi.
So, you guys know the drill, since you are all returning, but I'll just kind of give you and the listeners a little reminder of how we start things off here at CPU! I would like you first to introduce yourselves. You'll be asked to identify yourself by your first name only and how you came to watch Gilmore Girls: A Year in the Life. How did you find out that it was coming back? What made you start watching? And what kept you watching? And then we're also going to have you rate your interest in the show. And because this is our CPU! Standard fun little signature question, it is based on a character description. Your interest in Gilmore Girls: A Year in the Life is because it had the same magic of the original, just like the first snow of the season, like Lorelai. It was totally new and unexpected and went to a place you didn't expect, like Emily. It was still sassy and witty and utter perfection, just like Michelle. It was okay. Just like putting on your favorite worn-in baseball cap, like Luke. It didn't have a strong sense of direction, and this was a little disappointing, like Rory. It seemed to have it all together, even when it started to fall apart at the seams, like Paris. The ending of the original series was disappointing, so this was a good redemption, like Lane. Were you just there for the cameos because they were the best part, like Suki? Wait, what are we talking about again? Like Paul. Who's Paul? Paul. Or you didn't watch it because you are sadly no longer with us, like Richard. Aww. Edward Herrmann is gone, but not forgotten.
Sad.
R.I.P.
Who would like to start?
I'm Krista.
Hi, Krista.
Hi, Krista.
And I started watching it because I was eagerly anticipating it. I had it on my calendar. I think I woke up and I watched it for sure, the first episode, and I was texting you, Kristen, about where we were a lot. Mm-hmm. So I know I finished it within the first weekend.
Were you one of those people who, because it was released at 3 a.m. Eastern time where we are, it was released at midnight on the Pacific Coast, were you one of those people up at 3 in the morning streaming it?
The day after Thanksgiving?
Yeah.
No.
Because there were people who were up at 3 a.m.
I know, I woke up to
watching
I woke up and saw like a friend had already said I finished it already, and I'm like,
wow. People are dedicated. Wow.
I watched it over the course of the weekend though. I think that I am kind of between Emily and Rory. It was totally new and unexpected and went to a place I didn't expect. That part's all true, but it also didn't have a strong sense of direction and was a little disappointing at times, like Rory.
All right. Well, welcome back, Krista. Thanks for joining us.
I'm Chelsea.
Hi, Chelsea.
Hi. I watched this kind of the same as Krista. I had it on my calendar forever as soon as I found out about it, and then I didn't want to just gobble it all up in one sitting, so I kind of watched 2 episodes with my sisters and my mom because we do that together, that show, and then I went to bed and I refused to watch anymore until like the next couple days because I had to think about it all. Just
digest it and take it all in.
Yeah. And I'm kind of between 2 as well. I think between Emily and Luke because it was new and unexpected. went somewhere new, like Emily, but it was just kind of like putting on, an old worn baseball cap. It was kind of...
It was comfortable.
Yeah.
Well, thanks. Welcome back, Chelsea.
Thanks.
Hi there, I'm Samantha.
Hi, Samantha.
Hey, Samantha.
Hi. I'm assuming I found out about the same way that everyone did because it was in Entertainment Weekly and TV Guide and NBC News and all that good stuff. And again, had it on my calendar, had it planned to watch as a family. We had started, I think it was like 10 o'clock in the morning, and we watched Winter and Spring and then had to take a break. And then I believe it was the next day we finished Summer and Fall. And I'd say I'm probably a combo of Luke and Rory in this case. It felt very comfortable, kind of like that good old baseball cap, because there were so many familiar characters and they had so many come back. But most of the time I couldn't tell where it was going. It felt very self-indulgent to me of everything that was covered. It's like, okay, we're going to put in everything that we didn't get a chance to cover the first time.
Thanks. Welcome back, Samantha.
Well, I'm Kylie.
Hi, Kylie.
Hi. It's so anticlimactic when I do the first intro, but that's okay. Gee, I started watching and found out about and kept watching Gilmore Girls A Year in the Life because Kristen said, and I quote, "Oh my God, they're reviving Gilmore Girls on Netflix. We have to do Gilmore Girls on CPU."
Yeah, that's a direct
quote.
Of us.
Yes.
And there were lots of gifts.
There were lots of gifts.
I speak fluent gifts.
So, I mean, basically, the whole point of that was, Kylie, watch Gilmore Girls, and then you have to watch Gilmore Girls A Year in the Life. So I did. Of course, if you listen to our Gilmore Girls Looking Back podcast, you know that I'm probably not as big a fan as the other four. Be that as it may, if I were to characterize my interest according to the question, I actually would be a Luke and a Rory as well. That was the combination that I zeroed in on. It felt like putting on the baseball cap. It was comfortable, reliable characters. The actors all put on their persona again and wore them well. But I also thought it didn't have a strong sense of direction. And I don't want to say it was disappointing. I don't know that I came away from it disappointed because I don't think I had as high of expectations for it as everybody else did. But I definitely felt like, well, okay, here again, so that happened.
So that happened, yeah. That's a good way to put it.
Interesting year. So that's where I am.
Awesome. Thanks, Kylie. And I'm Kristen. Once again, I'm the moderator. I had read somewhere in the darkness of the internet that Amy Sherman Palladino and her husband Dan Palladino, the creator and the producers of the original series, were in talks with Netflix to give it a revival. And so I got super excited, and then I found out that it actually was going to be a thing when Lauren Graham, who plays Lorelai, put a post on her Twitter account. It was a picture of her with a jacket that she had stolen from the Gilmore Girls set back in the day when the show closed. And she said, I guess I have to return to work now, or return this to work now. And that's when I immediately messaged Kylie and said, we need to do this, because we have to.
And we're doing it.
And we're doing it. I'm so excited. Probably about a year, pretty much a year when maybe 2. I don't remember, because I started...
It's not been 2.
It's not been 2, but it's been a while. But I'm just happy that we're finally doing it. My interest in this little revival series, for Emily's storyline only, I'm an Emily. Her storyline was totally new and unexpected and went somewhere I wasn't expecting, and I loved it. But otherwise, for the entire rest of it, I'm a strong Rory. I was really disappointed. Maybe I had high hopes for it. Maybe I was too excited. I'm not sure, but it just really was lacking direction. It felt like a lot of fan service was happening. I think I remember talking to Krista about that when we were watching it together but not together. And I don't know, I felt like the first few episodes really took a while to get going, and it really didn't come together until fall, the last episode. But I'm excited to discuss with all of you. So,
me too. I've got thoughts.
I think we all pretty much have thoughts.
We all
have thoughts. So, because this is a new show, we are going to do our CPU star rating as well. So how would you rate just A Year in the Life overall? Not taking into account the original series. So just this little revival. Would you give it 5 stars? I have to watch everything. Holy smokes, this is the best thing ever. Would you give it 4 stars? It certainly seems intriguing, and, if they make more episodes, I'll keep watching, but I see possible pitfalls going forward. Would you give it 3 stars? You know, you're going to give it another try if there's a season 2. There are things you like, things you don't, and we'll see which things happen, again, if they go forward. Or would you say you only watched part of this one season? You know, chances are you're probably pretty bored. You know, it really wasn't that great. There was some level of intrigue that maybe could hold it together, but you really can't convince yourself to keep watching it. Or would you give it a 1 star? Pass on this one, guys. It's a snoozer. It's not funny. It's not interesting. It's not for me. There are too many great options out there to waste time on this particular show.
I'll start since I wrote this rating scheme.
All right, Kylie.
I would give it 3.5 stars. I'm in between the 4 and the 3 because there are things I like and things that I didn't. There was fan service is actually a really good point to make because I felt like there was almost a slavish devotion to it that really kind of pulled back from whatever story they were trying to tell. And because there were 4 episodes and they were trying to convey this year, but in points in the seasons that they were setting it up by, there was a lot that didn't seem to connect, even though it should have connected from within the year in the life. And there was a lot of disjointedness in the writing. And I don't think that's not a knock against Amy and Dan at all. I think they were trying for something. I just don't think it necessarily worked, and so that would be the pitfall that I see. You know, if they continue to make more episodes and they stick with this format, they're going to have to find a way to make that year seem like the organic progression that the original Gilmore Girls series did. I think that they lost a little of that going to this 4-episode thing, and if they don't get that back, it's going to be really hard, I think, for people to find the same love for A Year in the Life that they did for the original series. But there is still a lot to like about it, too. I mean, it was nice to see all the characters all grown up. I'm glad that we did get to see everybody at least once. I mean, I think the absence of Suki would have been a hard one to explain. So I'm glad that Melissa McCarthy made time out to come back. It's interesting to see where they might end up, because some of the characters went places. But in terms of that was interesting. As far as the actual story, we'll just talk about it as we get more into it. But that's where I'd land.
Right, so
3.5.
3.5 for Kylie.
Which I also said, just to let our fellow panelists know, that half stars are acceptable.
Yeah.
So if you can't hit a hole, then you can do a fraction.
I'm also 3.5. For better or for worse, I will watch it again because it's Gilmore Girls and there's a nostalgia factor for me. But looking at it solely on its own merits, I am not convinced that it even needs another season. I think it could be fine. I am so disappointed with how it ended, so upset that it can't be 4 for me. There's other reasons too,
right.
but
we'll get there.
Later.
This is early. We'll get there. So 3.5 for both Kylie and Krista.
She looks like she's chomping at the bit.
All right, Samantha, you want to go?
Well, I'm debating with myself because the consensus is an overall, I'll go solid 3. But if I could split it up, I would say the first 3 episodes were a 1. And the only reason I kept watching was because I knew there were going to be the famous 4 final words. It's like, okay, I have to see what happens. And then fall redeemed it for me. So I'll stick with a 3.
3. Okay, 3 for Samantha.
Yep, and I'd put it at a solid 3.5 overall, too. But, like, what we were just saying, like, the first few episodes were really just a lot of middle. A lot of plot, throwing everything in there, and it would have, none of it can stand on its own. So, the last episode, I really redeemed the whole series for me. And I would watch a season 2, because I feel like I'm required to.
Correct.
But I don't. I'm not pushing for them to make one. It's 3.5.
3.5. Okay. All right. So I'm gonna also give it a solid 3. I agree with what's been said before that the first 3 episodes were really lacking. You know, like I said, there was a lot of fan service, and I think it really was distracting from what they were trying to do. I feel like they should have just approached it like they were doing another season of Gilmore Girls and just made it work within these 4 seasons. But there was so much. They were just like, oh, we need to show the fans this, and we need to show them this, or bring this back. And it just would have been better to treat it like a standard season 8, at least in the development and the scripting. But I also agree that fall, up until the last 30 seconds, was the best episode of the 4. I do not like how it ended overall one character's situation. I do not like how they closed that chapter, but I did enjoy most of how they wrapped things up. So I'm a solid 3. So it sounds like we're kind of at a 3.3 repeating for the average.
Did you really do that math?
I sure did.
Wow. Good job.
No, I just guessed. I totally just guessed. So, okay,
I was going to be impressed. You should have just sold it.
I can't lie. I'm sorry. So we kind of already touched on this a little bit, but it sounded like most of us didn't like the show right away. And we kind of had to let it grow on us a little bit. Why did you guys feel that way? I mean, I've said for me it felt like too much fan service, and that's why I didn't like it right away. What took you guys? What point did you have to get to before you started to like it again? Like when it felt like the original?
When Emily said she wanted her furniture back. When Emily snapped out of it, basically, was when it kind of started winning me back over again.
When Emily snapped out of her depression from Richard's passing?
And just being, I mean, understandably, but she was kind of all over the place. I didn't hate all of the first 3 episodes. I really enjoyed the stuff with Emily and Lorelai together. I really liked that. It was mostly just Rory that drove me crazy for all of it. And I even liked parts of Sartell the musical because Sutton Foster.
Oh.
It was way too long.
I think it would have been fine, but it went on for so long that I was like, why did you just waste 15 minutes of these precious 4 episodes?
Longer than that.
Yeah.
Was it? Okay. Maybe I talked myself down to 15 minutes.
Yeah, the musical piece was, I mean, we're all kind of at least peripherally theater people, if not hardcore theater people, and the musical piece of it, I'm not sure if they were just so happy with themselves that they got Sutton and Christian Borle. That's what it felt like. Well, like, oh, we got these real singers, and they're singing our kitschy little musical about our small town, so let's make it go on forever.
If it had just been the Stars Hollow song, the first song, that would have been
fun.
And they could have just done a 2-minute snippet. We got the gist.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think part of it was, I think the next show that Amy Sherman-Palladino did after Gilmore Girls was Bunheads, which was on ABC Family, now Freeform. Sutton Foster was the lead. Kelly Bishop was another strong supporting character. And you know, since they were kind of in the mode of let's get guest stars in or let's pay tribute to other shows we've worked on, I think Amy really wanted to get Sutton involved in some way, and what's the best way to bring in a Tony-winning actress than to have her be part of a musical. I mean, they did a lot of the same thing with Lauren Graham's Parenthood co-stars as well. A lot of them made pop-up appearances as kind of fan service to her life. Post Gilmore Girls too.
They did, and that was ham-fisted too, but it didn't take out so much of one episode when there were only 4 in the whole series.
Yeah.
That's what I kept thinking to myself. Mm-hmm. But just to piggyback on what Krista said, I didn't hate all of the first 3 episodes either. I think the difference, and I'm just going to probably toss this out, I already kind of alluded to it, I think maybe, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, my expectations were lower when I sat down to watch A Year in the Life. Mm-hmm. Because I didn't have the effusive love for Gilmore Girls, the original series. I liked it, so I figured, okay, this is going to be more of the same. That being said, the winter episode, apart from the, oh, it's snowing moment, because that was a nice little callback, was very, very slog-worthy. Mm-hmm. Because there was definitely a moment or a series of moments where you could feel the actors trying to feel for that original chemistry again. Mm-hmm. They got it. They got back to it. But it took a lot of the filming, apparently, of winter to get there. As for the rest of it, it didn't bother me. I agree that Rory's trajectory specifically was so completely not within what we understood her character to be. And I get having a loss period as an adult. I think everybody goes through that, but they did not set up how her loss period came to be. Like, all of a sudden she was just having this horrible, messy time and couldn't get regular gigs, and then decided to drown her sorrows by going and sleeping with an engaged Logan.
She likes those guys that are taken.
Because Rory makes bad life choices.
She wants what she can't have, apparently, which is fine. But and then Logan being the one that is the one to come back and spend the most time of the 3 of the fabulous, famous 3 Rory's boyfriends. he's the one we see the most. I was like, well, that's no good.
Yeah, and I want to get into that too, because I want to talk about all the episodes in and of themselves, and we'll definitely get into that, because I have feelings. I have so many feelings. So, Chelsea, what about you? Did you like it right away? Did you have trouble with it? What was your situation?
Yeah, I mean, I liked it. I liked it, the whole thing. It was, like, nice. There were lots of little moments in there. The musical, I feel like the only thing I needed was that song. That's the only part I needed. But, yeah, so minus that specifically, on the whole, it was fine. And then Rory's story,
Yeah.
I have a love-hate relationship with it, so.
Let's go through kind of each episode, and let's talk about the big things that happened. That way we can kind of keep the listeners on track as well. So let's start talking about Winter, the opening one. Kylie had mentioned Rory, she's really listless in life right now. I mean, this woman, she's about 32-ish, maybe a little older, so she's the same age that Lorelai was when the series first started. So it's really kind of come almost full circle. But she has multiple cell phones. She's living out of boxes in 3 different cities on 2 different continents. And, she's real listless. I understand that the journalism profession is kind of taking a dive, because a lot of, print publications are tanking, and, journalism's taking a whole new direction now. But do you guys feel like that was enough of an explanation as to why she's freelancing in a really not a successful one? Or did you want more of a more specific explanation as to why she was in this place?
Her whole thing, and I was just very confused. Who was funding all of these constant trips to London? River Song?
Logan, probably.
And
River Song.
Yeah, River Song. That's Doctor Who
reference.
That is Alex Kingston. She plays an author that Rory's writing a book with. Her name is Naomi Shropshire.
I actually enjoyed that part a little bit, but I just found the whole thing to be super unrealistic, and also she's 32. If she was 25, I would give her a pass on all of this. But there's a certain amount of, okay, so the journalism isn't working, let's figure out a new plan. That would make sense for Rory also.
Yeah, Rory was too driven of a character in the original series to have her end up listless and drifting from one house to the next, and I didn't like her path at all.
Yeah, that seemed confusing to me. That driven is the absolute right word, and for someone of her smarts and drive to be so focused on a lucky interview outfit, it just doesn't jive with the Rory of 7 seasons.
I totally agree with that sentiment. It did not seem authentic, because Rory has shown herself, she's made horrible decisions and had horrible periods that we saw in the original series, but she was always resourceful enough to get herself out of them. Why was this time so hard? That's what I couldn't figure out.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand, the strong relationship that she had with her grandfather, with Richard, was a big part of her life, and I know it's very hard to lose a grandparent that you're close to. That isn't enough of an explanation for me either. It would have been nice for them to go into a backstory of what thing happened to put her on this stress tap dancing path. I mean,
she was tap dancing before he died, too.
Yeah,
that was the thing.
Yeah, she was. She had been stress tap dancing, but that choice even seems more Paris than Rory to me. I don't know. I don't see Rory as a stress tap dancer, but for me, that was an odd choice for her.
I also thought it was really odd that she was lying to her mom about that. She wouldn't necessarily have to say, "Oh, I'm having an affair with Logan, who's engaged," because her mom totally wouldn't be cool with that. But it just seemed odd that she would make up this Dee Dee character.
Yeah, it seemed like the whole Winter episode was just overemphasizing that everyone was left reeling in Richard's death. Like, they were all just so thrown off, and then it took, the rest of the 4 episodes to get them back on track. Kind of. And I don't know. I think they could have
shortened it a little bit more.
I feel like there was a lot of just, this is where everybody's at right now.
It was catching you up, essentially, on what the last 9 years
instead of just putting us back in and letting us figure it out for ourselves.
Right, or showing it through flashbacks, like strategically placed nuggets of information. But I I feel the same way as Chelsea. It was just a lot of nothing.
Well, and, either of those approaches would be valid if the approach they chose they used correctly. I don't think they used the approach they chose correctly.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why we're all so confused about Rory. We're not as confused about Lorelai, but Lorelai, she had a very direct path at the end of the series. Rory seemed to have a direct path at the end of the original series. Rory was not on that path anymore, and they didn't bother to describe how she got there.
Well, here's the question. So, speaking of, the end of the series versus the year in life where it began, supposedly the Palladinos didn't watch season 7 at all. They still have not watched season 7. They had somebody else watch it and just give them the highlights of what happened. And then they just went and wrote this. So they didn't necessarily know all the minor things or whatever had happened in season 7. Do you think that hurt them as they were writing the series? Should they have just gone and watched it, or at least read a more detailed synopsis than just getting the highlights version? Would that have helped them set this up better?
I find it upsetting that they didn't.
Yeah. I mean, I can understand why, because it was their baby for 6 years, and then they had to go give it to somebody else.
Like, in my brain, that's all I keep in my brain, just shouting, do your research.
It's your baby, but, we're talking about a 10-year difference from the time that you didn't come to term and left. I mean, I don't know if it was the network that initiated their departure or them, but at some point, if you're going to pick it up again and you're going to be given kind of the gift that not a lot of writers get, which is to revive your baby
and end it in your way.
Exactly. Then at least you have to make it organic for your viewers. That's putting a lot of faith on carryover audience from original to now, and then expecting them to buy into where you are from a personal level.
Yeah, and I think Amy had gone on record, and she was quoted as saying, like, only one character's story she had to correct. She didn't go into specifics of which one that was, but she said everybody else was fine, but there was one character that didn't go where I wanted them to go. And I think we'll get into that as we start discussing fall, when they decide to course correct. So, yeah, I wish they would have gone back and watched it too. I'm with you guys on that one. So, we know that Rory's having an affair with Logan, and I hate Logan so much, and Rory makes bad life choices. So, let's get into a little bit of Luke and Lorelai's storyline in Winter. They're still together. They're not married, but they're living together. They've modernized her house a little bit. What else? Were they in a good place? Did you kind of like where they went in Winter? What are your thoughts?
It was comfortable. It was nice.
I don't like their appliances in the kitchen. I couldn't get past it.
That they were different?
Yeah, they just seemed like they were too old-fashioned. Or too retro, maybe.
Yeah. I could see that as almost a compromise between Luke and Lorelai, because now Luke is living there, so he's going to want to cook there. And so he's going to want newer, nicer appliances that actually work, and Lorelai's probably going to want something that looks cool. So I could see where they kind of came to terms on it. But yeah, it was different for me too, because they were different colored than the original, and it was weird.
I don't have a strong feeling on Luke and Lorelai. I mean, maybe I was a little bit surprised that they weren't married by the time we started the series, but then again, I figured we were going to see their wedding before the end of it, so I didn't have any, it was comfortable, like Krista said. I didn't have any real reaction to it.
Yeah, it was comfortable. I guess now thinking about it, I don't know that I would have been mad to see that they were already married. Like, to just come in and, they're married, now what? I don't know. It would be interesting. But I kind of liked seeing them come to terms with the fact that they wanted to get married eventually. Yeah, so it was nice.
Okay, so let's talk Emily. She's,
the best part of the whole show.
I agree. Emily was by far my favorite for this whole show. I just want to talk about the 10-foot high portrait of Richard in the living room.
And that she acted like it was nothing. It was just so... That was a moment that made me feel back in the cozy Gilmore Girl moment, was that painting. And
Yeah. Well, it was such an iconic picture of Edward Herrmann as Richard, too, that I'm really happy that they chose that one to display. But I loved Emily, where she refused to admit that she gave them the wrong measurements for the painting.
It was so Emily in a wonderful way.
It was. That whole argument was just everybody digging their heels in, like, no, you were absolutely, you made a mistake. Why don't you just admit it? admit it.
Yeah.
The same thing over and over again for several minutes. It was very comfortable. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's when it felt closest to the original series for me, was in that moment when we were in the Gilmore mansion. Mm-hmm. Those scenes were the most authentic to me throughout.
When did therapy start?
Oh, spring.
Okay.
They talk about going in winter, then it's finally spring when they start. Because in winter, Emily wears jeans. That was such a big thing for me. What did you, she's wearing jeans, she's following the bestseller, The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up, to declutter the house and get rid of stuff, and she's wearing jeans and a t-shirt.
I love that she had no clue whose they were.
Yeah.
And that Lorelai had to clue her in.
Because they were Lorelai's jeans, weren't they?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The t-shirt had a band on it.
No, it was a Candy's logo.
Oh, Candy's, yeah.
Candy's logo t-shirt, which was probably also something that Lorelai had left at the house.
I loved it because she was walking around, like, picking things up. Does this bring me joy? No, this does not bring me joy. And she was just throwing them away.
She's like, no joy. Pick it up, no joy. Yeah. And they were, like, running away with the dining room furniture. Like, all the iconic furniture pieces of Friday Night Dinners were just out the door with movers. And then we had, I think this is when Berta, Emily's new maid, first made her appearance.
Berta and her whole family.
Because Emily doesn't speak the language and she doesn't know what she's saying. Berta is actually a familiar face in the Gilmore Girls family. It was played by the same actress who plays Gypsy.
I did not pick up on that for a long time.
Yeah?
Yeah, like an embarrassingly long time.
Yes, I think...
I read about it.
Yeah?
I did the entire time.
Yeah, it took me a minute, but I think it was in part because they didn't really have a large role for Gypsy, and I really like her as an actress too. I've seen her in Parenthood and other things, and she had really good chemistry with Kelly Bishop. I think it was it was Emily's bachelorette party in the original series. Was the only time those two characters were in the same place at the same time and had a conversation. And I think the Palladinos just really liked that chemistry, and they wanted to find a way to make it work. And I don't know, but I liked Berta, and the fact that she's the one maid that Emily couldn't get rid of, for better or for worse, and stuck with her for the long haul. I thought that was really sweet.
That's true. We didn't really mention the maid turnover.
The maid turnover in the original series was another running gag, like Kirk. And so the fact that in this one it was Berta and her children and family the whole time was kind of a nice change of pace. I think it was a sign of things to come.
Put a TV in the dining room, was it?
Yeah, the living room.
The living room.
Above the fireplace, I think, or in the corner, once they got rid of the gigantic portrait. So what else about winter? Would you like, would you hate? Kirk started Uber.
Yeah, Kirk was probably the best part of winter for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because Lorelai's Jeep broke down, and he had to come pick her up and drive her to Friday night dinner with her mom, and then stayed for dinner.
Yeah, let's talk about her, attachment to the Jeep.
Yeah, she's had that Jeep rebuilt and repaired, all the stuff. She refuses to let go.
And it would have been so much cheaper to buy a new car.
Mm-hmm.
I just thought, I've never loved a car that much.
Have you ever owned a Jeep?
No.
Because it's a thing.
Yeah, Jeep people is a thing.
It's a thing. My family is Jeep people. I understand the attachment to the Jeep.
I don't, but
I'm sorry if I've offended any Jeep driving listeners. I've never experienced the magic.
The slogan, there's a little thing you can get for your Jeep, and I think Lorelai should have it. It says, it's a Jeep thing you wouldn't understand. I'm very surprised they did not ever put that on her Jeep.
They must not have gotten the rights.
Maybe not, because it's a little vinyl decal you can put on your window, and yeah, it's a thing. Jeeps. I love Jeeps. So I am firmly in the I understand. Lorelai doesn't want to get rid of her car. Okay, spring. Therapy gets started. Talk about therapy.
Yes, let's talk about therapy. That should have happened sooner.
That was awesome.
Sooner as in winter or sooner as in original series?
Original series. Never would have happened, of course, but I enjoyed the therapy episodes. I like how Emily just used it as another conduit to sort of bring up some of their issues in a backhanded way, but then again, what she was saying wasn't necessarily untrue, such as the Emily way. So I loved it, but it was just really a chance for those two actresses to be in longer scenes together, and to have a third party who's not already in their circle kind of reacting to it I thought it was refreshing.
Didn't they drive her to drink?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm remembering.
Yeah, well then, too, after a few sessions, Emily just doesn't show up, and then Lorelai continues on her own. And that's when she, starts to really try to figure out who she is and what she wants. And that's kind of where trouble starts a little bit for her and Luke for a hot second. Because, again, it can't be Gilmore Girls without the Luke and Lorelai, will they, won't they? So Luke, Richard left him a little stipulation in his will about franchising Luke's Diner. It was not successful in the original series, and Luke still didn't want to do it now. So what did you guys think about that little subplot of trying to franchise the diner and Emily going crazy with her realtor when she's back in full-on Emily mode?
I could see him him being Richard, not wanting to give up on, molding Luke to what he thought he should be.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Worthy of Lorelai, I think, is what he was worried about in the original.
Yeah, I think the way he did it, too, putting it in his will, is I'm getting the last word on this.
Mm-hmm. You can't argue with me.
It was very Gilmore of him to do it. But.
And Emily, in her Emily way, to just take the bull by the horns and totally run with it, was pretty funny.
They went to Chilton.
They did. They had a Chilton Distinguished Alumni reunion or something, because Rory and Paris went back to Chilton.
We got to see Paris, which was awesome.
Oh, I know, we finally got to see Paris and all
I
of
think
her glory.
seeing Paris in her fertility doctor role
That
was
was
delightful.
amazing.
Yeah, because when we left the original series, Paris had gotten accepted into Harvard and
Med schools and law schools.
Med schools and law schools.
Because she's Paris.
And she couldn't, I don't know if she had actually decided where she was going to go yet. I don't remember if they had made that decision at the end of season 7 or not.
No, what's his name?
With Doyle?
Doyle just decided that she was going to go with her
wherever
and that was
they
how
went.
they left it.
Mm-hmm. Yep, so we got to see Paris. She's now a really sought-after fertility doctor.
Oh, there was a thing. I want to be a physician. Yes, they did decide.
They did decide.
Yep, she wanted to be a doctor.
Okay, but so she became a very specialized physician.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And is this the episode where she got Luke and Lorelai into her office and was showing them surrogates, or was that summer? At one point in spring or summer, Paris.
It was in spring.
Was that in spring?
It was in spring.
Yeah, because that's when we really got into the Paris backstory, and Rory was staying.
Breeders.
With what?
With the breeders.
With the breeders, her high breeders. Yeah. She brought a few into Luke's diner for him to check out and look at, and
Luke not understanding what's
going on. Do
I
have to have sex with these women?
Yeah.
Perfect Luke and Paris. Mm-hmm. And then I think this is where we saw Doyle too, with their kids and their.
Well, this was
Portuguese
the freak out in the bathroom with the Tristan.
Yeah,
it wasn't Tristan.
Yeah, the Tristan that wasn't Tristan. They couldn't not show Tristan back at Chilton, but yet they couldn't get Chad Michael Murray to come back for a cameo, so it was an actor randomly. Weird. Thoughts?
I love that her briefcase was empty, that she only carried it around so that it made her look more important. I can relate to that on so many levels of wanting to appear in a certain fashion, even though you don't know what's happening. I don't know. It was so real, and also I understand how Paris that could happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a very Paris freak out. It was great. Mm-hmm. Did Tristan have to be there? He didn't actually graduate Chilton, did he?
No, he didn't. He got sent off to military school. Yeah, that was how they explained Chad Michael Murray's absence when he went to go start filming One Tree Hill, which was, they even said he went to military school in North Carolina, which is where that show was set. There was a lot of little nods like that. Yeah. But it was nice to see Francie, leader of the Puffs, because she came back to, they literally got everybody back for this. And we saw Doyle in their New York townhouse.
With all the stairs.
He
And
was played by Danny Strong,
the creator of Empire.
Also, he was Jonathan on Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Yeah, and they decided...
Very important.
Yeah, it is very important. And so Doyle's off writing movies and television shows and scripts, which is kind of what he actually does in real life.
Yeah, so meta.
So meta.
I did not know about the Empire thing. That's interesting.
He's one of the creators.
He is.
I just thought it was odd that they had children. Everything else involved in felt really realistic to me in terms of her, but then the random getting married and sort of settling down in a townhouse with the 2 kids and then going through a divorce just seemed like a stretch to me.
It seemed that's kind of what her parents did, though, too, is that, her parents went through a divorce and she was essentially raised by her Portuguese nanny, and...
I'm sure she thought she was supposed to, this is what people do.
Right. And I mean, for all we know, she could have used her breeders as a fertility doctor. We don't know that she actually carried the kids.
I doubt she carried those children.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. She would have had time.
It made me stop and go, wait, who are these child actors?
Mm-hmm.
Are they there?
I also, like, in my head, I like to think that they didn't end up getting divorced, that they figured out a way to make it work. Like, that's one of those
It's possible. It was left open-ended.
That I'm like, because those two, like, I could ship those guys forever.
Mm-hmm. Well, didn't Doyle, like, even ask Rory out on a date or something while she was there? Was that just me misremembering something?
I think he hit on her.
Yeah, he hit on her or something.
Like, practiced, I think.
Yeah.
I don't think he was actually hitting on her.
But then Spring is also the episode where we find out that Logan is engaged. Because I think it was maybe alluded to in Winter, but we had actual confirmation he's engaged to this French heiress named Odette. And Rory knows and is still sleeping with him and staying with him, and she's essentially being the kept woman.
She is the worst.
She just makes horrible choices.
Yeah. And so she sleeps with the guy from...
I slept with a Wookiee.
Yeah. I'm doing a piece on lines. People waiting in lines.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because they wait in line for a cronut, for these wonderful shoes, for something, and people were in line. They didn't even know what they were waiting for. They just wanted to join a line.
Mm-hmm. Apparently dressed as a Wookiee.
Mm-hmm. Well,
and then she got drunk with a Wookiee and slept with him.
Yeah, she had a one-night stand with a Wookiee.
And then told her mom immediately.
Because because Lorelai went with her to New York City to write this piece for GQ or whatever magazine she was writing for. Awkward.
Yeah, the Wookiee was less of a cringe moment for me than the whole, oh my gosh, Logan is engaged, and whoa, he's actually there in bed with him, and he's answering the phone, and it just...
Don't answer the phone, dude. Like,
it's Logan.
Logan's the worst.
Logan's the worst.
in this part of it, yes, Logan is the worst. Well, Rory is. We can't completely blame.
They're a tie.
They're kind of a tie.
I mean... yeah, I didn't cringe about the Wookiee part. I mean, if she was going to make all these poor choices, why not a random one-night stand with the guy she met in line? I mean...
Right. I mean, but did he even take off the Wookiee costume?
Do we need to think about that?
I don't know. It's just funny. It's like, because she comes in just saying, I slept with a Wookiee.
Oh, boy.
Okay. I don't know.
I don't... See, this is a very innocent show with subtext. Let's just keep the subtext.
Okay. Moving on. So Stars Hollow had a brand new festival, because Stars Hollow was known for its crazy festivals in the original. I think it was the International Food Festival was what they had going on here.
Of course it was.
And we actually saw a long-lost character, Mr. Kim, who was never seen in the original series.
They explained why, but I don't remember.
They never explained why. I don't know if they did.
There was a little comment that he doesn't like to come outside or something.
Yeah, or something. But it's like...
But he wasn't even at the wedding.
No.
You know, so it's just like...
It's just one of those things.
I thought he was dead.
That's what I thought, too. Because he was never really mentioned or...
Yeah, he was, like, talked about very early on.
And then that was it.
Yep.
And when Mrs. Kim had to talk with Lane before the wedding about, you're just going to have to do it, Lane. Hopefully you only have to do it once like I did. Which made me think that he was long gone, or maybe Mrs. Kim had some sort of weird one-night stand that she was deeply ashamed of.
It just made me think it was one of those cameos that it's like, did we really need this?
Nope.
I'm wondering.
Yeah, it's fan service, because that was one of the things that was talked about, like, where's Mr. Kim? But it was just Rory and Lane sitting at their food booth for Lane's church.
But
and all she said was, oh, there's my dad.
Why did people talk about it, though? Like, when I was watching it, I didn't
think about it or wonder.
Yeah, like, I figured Mrs. Kim was a really hard woman to live with.
Gilmore Girls fans are we're crazy. We like to discuss everything. I mean, there's a theory that Kirk is actually Taylor's son.
I can get on board with that line of thinking. I don't know how they'd establish it, though, because I think Taylor is in the closet.
Yeah.
That's my theory.
Yeah, see?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. So, you have to,
Right. And Kirk's mother is this, I don't know, but that's another crazy
Where's Kirk's
theory.
mother? Locked in her basement. Clearly.
Wow.
Yeah, that cameo would have made a lot more sense, because at least she was referenced significantly.
A lot. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, so summer, we see Rory at the very end of spring. Rory decides to finally collect all of her boxes that are scattered throughout 2 different places in Stars Hollow, New York and London, and move back in with her mom to her old bedroom. So a big thing for Rory with this episode is I'm not back. I'm really not back. You know, everybody's welcoming her home, and she's not back. They suggest that she joins the 30-something gang, which is, you know, all the kids post-college who move home with their parents because they don't have jobs. And
like, I get it. As someone who graduated college during the recession and had to move home, it was horrible. And this is just temporary. This is just temporary. It was like my refrain for everything I said for the whole year that I was there. This is just temporary. I'm having a hard time right now. You know, student loans. Like, I swear that was just how I talked.
So you could identify with Rory.
Yeah,
I'm
but
not at that.
Oh, but not at that age.
She's 32.
Yeah, she's 32.
I was 22. There's a difference.
I kept wondering if this was some sort of backhanded millennial thing, like you know, commentary on millennials.
Right.
'Cause that's very hip to do right now, is talk about millennials as a generation. And I mean, Rory being the most representative character, they decided to put her into some sort of stereotypical dysfunction, including moving back home and insisting it was temporary. I mean, I didn't have any reaction to it. It was fitting within the story they were trying to tell, which is she was highly disorganized and making choices, and we didn't know what her backstory was. But that was my takeaway was I feel like whether it's a slam or a commentary or, you know, maybe trying to put it in a different light, I don't know, some sort of talk about that.
And then we find out, then Rory volunteers essentially, or she gets coerced into becoming the new editor of the Stars Hollow Gazette.
Which I liked.
Which was going to be, you know, it was potentially going to be shut down because their old editor either passed away or retired. Passed away. And the two employees didn't want to step up to take it over, so Rory, you know, the institution, it's 90 years old.
I liked that. That made sense. Like, if you're going to do something, at least it makes, I don't know.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
I was actually kind of disappointed in the Gazette office because it didn't quite tie back to the original like I thought it would, because hadn't Rory worked at the Gazette for like a summer internship, and it seemed like there was more to do there than how they showed it to us now.
I don't think she did. That was a different newspaper in Hartford, I think.
Yeah, that was one of the Hartford papers that Logan's father owned as part of his empire. I think she talked about working for the Gazette in the original series, but didn't actually go there because she had the other opportunity.
Yeah, because we never saw the inside of the Gazette, because they actually ended up placing it on the back lot where they shot the Stars Hollow exteriors. It wasn't a building that hadn't been used before, because it had like the red door and all that, and that wasn't previously used.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it was alright. I have no strong reaction to that.
I don't have a strong reaction to Rory's story at this point either.
I feel like Summer was much more hyper-focused on, at least until who you're going to, I'm sure, mention soon comes back, was more hyper-focused on Lorelai.
It was. So let's talk about Lorelai. She decides that she wants to do wild.
That's the very, very end of it,
That's the very end. Yeah.
Oh, the hiking thing?
The hiking thing. She wants to go on...
Where she sees her current... Is he husband?
Partner. They're not married, but...
Okay.
Yeah. Because that's in fall.
That's in fall.
Yeah, that seemed kind of weird that, you know, her and Luke are so close to getting married, and then she's like, I want to go do wild. I want to go do this. I need to do this right now.
It just didn't make sense, because Lorelai hates being outdoors.
She's not outdoorsy.
No. And so it didn't, like, I hate being outdoors. Even if I'm having, like, the worst day ever and I need to find myself, I'm never going to go outdoors to do that. Yeah. That's not something that's going to happen.
Even Luke seemed really confused.
Yeah, like, that just doesn't even... I didn't even like to read those kind of books, because I'm just like, meh.
I would have accepted it okay if it didn't become a contrivance that lasted for so long.
Yeah, through most of the fall episode.
Yeah. If she had gone and done it and tried and then came home, you know...
If we'd seen just the coming home part, you mean?
Right.
Yeah.
Or, you know... I mean, I think part of it was she met those other women and made friends, and that was okay, but it just felt like it went on too long, and it felt like it was a ham-fisted way of getting her to interact with Peter Krause, basically.
Yeah,
since he was the park ranger.
He was the second park ranger. Yeah, the first one was another Parenthood co-star.
But I think unlike the Stars Hollow musical, you didn't have any context to, hey, these were cameos from Parenthood. It didn't take away from anything, and it was cute. So those didn't bother me so much. Probably the most valuable part of the Wild thing for me was sitting around drinking their box wine and lean cuisine, and all of them basically complaining about their lives. And I'm sitting there watching going, okay, Lorelai, realize that your life is actually pretty awesome.
Yep.
Maybe it's time to go home.
Yeah.
It's such a cliche of sitcoms, though, of where you sit there and, like, everything sucks, and then all these people have these horrible stories. I've seen it so many times, I just... It doesn't hold my attention anymore. I'm like, I know how this is going to end.
It was maybe a little too lengthy, going all the way through the fall as well, but, like, I didn't hate it as much as the musical. It was fine.
Yeah. So let's talk about the musical real quick. I know we kind of already talked about it a little bit, but we got Sutton Foster and Christian Borle, both Tony Award-winning, wonderful people. We all thought it was too long.
That was my least favorite moment.
I wish it was a montage.
Yeah.
Like we saw, we saw the whole plot, but in the span of 2 minutes, where we saw bits and pieces of songs and there was slapping or something, because that would be funny.
Yeah, that would have been a stronger way to do it too, I think.
It was kind of a disservice to the two of them because they're both so talented, and I love both of them when I've seen them in shows. I mean, I know Sutton Foster is a huge Gilmore Girls fan, but for Christian, I was like, why did you sign up to do this? Don't you feel a little ridiculous?
Yeah.
It just didn't fit.
No, it didn't fit. It went on too long.
Why didn't, like, Sutton Foster having a solo? I get it, she can sing, but I don't know.
The song that she sang, the full song, where Lorelai's sitting there in the audience too, that made me tear up, because that was really about Lorelai. And I feel like she really personally connected to it.
I think just because but with the whole musical and then the whole song,
it was too much.
It was just too much.
And then the whole circle committee discussion too was also forever long.
Well, and it was the only time they got Carole King,
right?
You know, the woman who wrote the theme song, and she played Sophie. That's the only time she was in it too. Was just for those little committee meetings.
Probably my biggest disappointment was the fact that there wasn't the song at the beginning.
Yes!
Yeah, there was no song. So they put all their money budget into the musical and not using the theme song.
That didn't bother me at all.
Oh, no, I love it. I mean, that's
Gilmore
probably
Girls.
my most favorite part about watching this series that you all were like, watch Gilmore Girls, was the song. I love the theme song. Yes. And it's such a mood setter. The lyrics are perfect. Of course, Carole King is a singer-songwriter.
Yeah.
She's been for 50 years.
I think that one she recorded with her daughter, too.
She did, Louise. It's just such a fitting thing. And they didn't even use it to open the season.
No, they closed it. They closed fall with it.
I mean, I wouldn't have minded leaving it off for the middle seasons, but to start the series.
Yeah.
Right.
Maybe they didn't know how to do the opening credits.
That's what I was thinking. I'm like, would they use pictures from A Year in the Life or use the original,
They could have just used the original ones, but they would have had to redo them because the quality would have been too bad.
They could have even done like something sneaky, like had it playing on the radio or something, but I felt like if they would have had it at the beginning of winter to take us all the way back to that season, maybe it would have helped ground me into the fact that I was back in Gilmore Girls' world. And maybe I wouldn't have felt so disconnected right from the get-go.
Yes.
Just had it playing under the, like, a cold open type of...
Right, or even, like an instrumental version.
Like everybody just walking around.
Because I think they did get Carole King to sing, like, briefly in summer. They asked Sophie to play something, and I think...
I Feel the Earth.
Yeah. So it wasn't even the song, but yeah.
That's one of her songs, though.
It is, but it wasn't the song. Yeah.
It was very tongue-in-cheek of, oh, yeah, that's definitely not going to be a popular song.
Yeah.
But I think you'd have to be in on the joke with that.
Right. One other new addition to Stars Hollow was the secret bar that everybody kept secret from Taylor.
That was weird.
In an alleyway between two businesses.
I didn't mind it. Is it because Taylor doesn't like drinking?
Taylor doesn't like anything.
Oh, yes,
anything that's fun.
Except for his ice cream shop, as long as it lines his pockets.
Right.
But they had, the Hep Alien guys and Lane playing the jazzy music, and, then that's where Michelle and Lorelai had their big talk that he kind of wanted to leave because the Dragonfly is losing out. They had the B-list actors staying at the Dragonfly when all the A-listers were staying at this other fancy hotel for the movie that was being shot near town, and he wanted to add a spa or do this or that, and he was going to leave to go manage one that had it.
It was bigger.
A little heart to heart.
I guess I feel like the bar could have been funny, but they wanted to put a dramatic moment in the middle of it, so it was a little, that's why I say weird.
Yeah.
Because it seems to me, and that's one of the things that's a little bit cataclysmic, like what if they do continue to make Gilmore Girls episodes? Are they going to do it without Michelle? Is he leaving? Is Yannick Truesdale not coming back? By the tenor of that conversation.
Yeah, I don't know, because they also, this episode was the first time where they really gave Michelle more of a backstory, and we did get confirmation that he is married. He is gay, he's married, he's very happily married, and I don't know, I guess we'll kind of see what happens, because there is a development in fall that could affect whether his character stays or goes, too.
Before we move on from the secret bar, I guess I was kind of oblivious to that whole serious conversation in the middle of it because I was so taken with the fact that it sort of cements the fact that Taylor thinks he runs the town, but the town is actually running him for the most part, and it was just really funny to me.
Yeah, because when Taylor would walk by, like, they'd have, like, a little signal that he was coming close, and they would, blow out all the candles, turn off the lights, shut the iron gate, and everybody would be up against the wall with their tables and chairs in the dark. And then after he left, they would set everything back up and keep going. So I thought that, it kind of balanced out that dramatic moment a little bit more.
It gave me a chuckle.
It was very Stars Hollow.
Yeah, this is one of the points where it really kind of felt normal to me, was a little thing like that. So one of the last big things for summer is Jess is back. Finally! He finally comes halfway, and he meets Rory at the Gazette, and they drink. And
Milo's arms.
I love him.
I do too.
Mm-hmm. But I fell in love with him as Peter on Heroes, to be fair. But I love him. So
yeah. So what did we think about Jess? Because Jess seems to come back into Rory's life when she needs direction. He was there when she, in the original series when she was dropped out of Yale. He even called her out on it. It was like, what are you doing? So now he's back when she's working at the Gazette, and he's trying, I think, to get her to write a book or to follow through on her dream or path. He's there to get her moving.
that was one of my favorite moments of the series because it was true to both of their characters and it paralleled the original. And yeah.
It was nice to see Jess too, because his trajectory, like from his start in the series, he kept growing up and like becoming a real person and like caring about Luke and Rory and everybody, and then to see him then like checking in on Luke, and they still have a really good relationship, and then with Rory, like you said, keeping her on track and reminding her who she is, because he really does.
He cares for her.
Yeah. It was nice.
All that time that Luke spent with him to sort of keep him on the straight and narrow and keep him growing was worthwhile and paid off. And he became that like stabilizing force in Rory's life anyway.
Any other thoughts on Jess?
I love him.
Hearts.
Hearts.
I don't know if we said that enough.
I just really want to make the point clear.
Yeah.
And let's make it very, very clear he's extremely attractive.
Yes.
And I think still single in real life.
Oh, please call me.
A little funny moment in summer, just before we move on to fall, with Emily. She's being very particular about Richard's headstone. In summer, we see that Richard gets a 5th version of his headstone that still doesn't get approved because something is wrong or a picture is
missing a comma.
It's missing a comma. Like, the quote is awkward. Yeah. Emily, she's always the perfectionist to make sure that the last thing that she can give Richard needs to be 100% perfect.
I liked that. Very Emily.
And I'm also just like, are you not proofreading it before you send it to the engraver? Because at some point this is your fault.
But it's Emily. Nothing's ever her fault.
This is true. My bad.
Yeah, with the picture.
Yeah.
That she just kept sort of changing it.
Yeah.
Well,
making it better. I want to save the end for the end.
Yeah.
So let's not talk about that last little moment that closes out this year. We're going to get there, but that's a bigger discussion, and I don't want to start off with it.
Okay.
Because there's a lot that leads into it. Let's talk about Rory first, though, but then we'll close. We'll go full circle with that.
Okay.
Rory has a night out with the Life and Death Brigade.
I wish it was shorter. And I was really glad to see Colin and Finn for a minute. Mm-hmm. And then I'm like, oh my dear God, why are we still doing this?
Right, because this is after Rory had broken up with Logan. I think it happened during summer. She even said, like, we're nothing now, we're done. Like, I can't do this anymore. And then all of a sudden, we see Kirk's pig pedal.
Is this
come through and say start a ruckus.
She had the bad job interview at the end of...
Yep, she had the bad job interview, so she's needing a night out, and so all of a sudden, Colin and Finn and Logan come to give their best girl a night out one last time before Logan gets married. It's almost like Logan's bachelor party, essentially.
Yeah, I'm going to preface this by saying that Fall was my favorite of the four.
Yes.
But the reason why it was my favorite of the four is because it had moments like this. I mean, yeah, it arguably went on too long. I felt the musical was far longer and more tedious than this. This at least gave us a sense of, okay, Logan and Rory can be friends. Mm-hmm. And that's probably something they needed to do at the end of the original series.
Yes.
This gave them that moment, and I was okay with it.
Yeah.
Just an observation. We've all said things have been too long. I wonder if there was like a problem in the overall plotting with the timing of it being a longer episode.
Possibly.
Yeah.
That they just stretched things out longer than they needed to be, potentially, and weren't editing as carefully.
Yeah, like instead of packing it all in, like with the 100 or so pages before, they were just stretching it
out,
watering it down.
Instead of adding,
It wasn't clear to me as I was watching it that night out wasn't just a dream. It felt very fantasy sequence to me. I did like the part in the morning when they were talking and saying goodbye, but everything that happened at night was just bizarre to me.
Yeah, it didn't feel like it was edited in the standard Gilmore Girls way. When you look at it in context of the episode, it kind of made sense because, I mean, jumping forward a little bit, Luke and Lorelai's wedding sequence was done in very much the same way.
Yes.
Yep, another thing I wasn't completely on board with either.
Why did they let Kirk decorate? Like, oh yeah, let's just let this crazy man be in charge of our wedding.
Because it's Kirk and he needed a job to do. That's all you can really say.
You can't hear my eyes rolling, but they are.
He seemed to do a good job at the decorating.
Yeah, they loved it.
As long as they're happy, we should be happy too.
Okay, so
that's right.
The Life and Death Brigade thing, I liked it. I love those guys. I think they're hilarious.
I like Colin and Finn.
Oh my gosh.
I would be friends with Colin and Finn. They could take me out a night in the town anytime.
Yeah.
It's like one of the biggest regrets of... Sorry, I'm jumping back.
No,
is the not being able to see Finn's Passion of the Christ. That's like one of my biggest regrets. Is that. So to see him come back was just really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Colin and Finn. No, I think they did a good job, and like you said before, the goodbye moment the next morning when they're in that crazy antler-studded B&B in the middle of nowhere, where not only is she saying goodbye to the guys, but then she says goodbye to Logan, but he's offering her a chance to go write her book at his family's house in Maine, and she says no, because she doesn't want to be the kept woman anymore now that he's getting even closer to being married, and it felt like a really nice closure, officially,
Exactly.
for their relationship. So then Rory, she goes to visit Christopher, her dad. We finally see Christopher in Fall, and she has a really nice conversation with him about, were you okay with the fact that Mom raised me on her own, that you weren't there? They had a nice little moment where he kind of pretty much said, I think it was like, your mom's going to do things the way she wants to do them, and I wanted her to be happy.
I loved that conversation.
Especially with the foreshadowing.
To come.
Yeah,
because it seems like the reason they're having that conversation is for Rory to write her book, which she does, and she does it in Richard's study. She finds that's the best place.
Which was sweet.
It's very sweet. It was very touching that she wanted to go to Richard's study to start writing her book. And, she was able to do it very well. I think she wrote, the first 3 chapters before she gave it to her mom when Lorelai comes back from doing Wild. And Lorelai's the one who actually gives her the title. Instead of it being called The Gilmore Girls, Lorelai's like, nope, just get rid of the It's just
But she's
Gilmore
very
Girls.
resistant to it at first.
She's resistant to it because she doesn't want her business out there for the world to see. But then she comes around to it.
But I did like the super meta cheesy moment of her giving the title.
Yeah, because that was never done in the original.
Gilmore Girls, it's cleaner.
Yeah, Gilmore Girls, it's clear.
Dun, dun, dun.
All right, so because we already talked about Lorelai with her doing Wild, we already kind of talked about that a few minutes ago. So the next thing we can talk about, I think, is just Luke and Lorelai's wedding. They finally just decide to jump in. They get
Jump in!
Well, they finally decide to do it. They finally just decide enough waiting, their wedding was going to be planned for the next day, and they just couldn't wait. So they wake up good old Reverend Skinner and do it in the middle of the night in the town square at the gazebo. Another beautiful montage.
I was disappointed at who was at their wedding and somewhat confused.
Yeah, that was like who they called in the middle of the night to
Because it was Michelle
and Lane.
And Reverend Skinner, Luke, Lorelai, Rory.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Suki wasn't there.
Emily wasn't there. Emily wasn't there, and I didn't know her.
Was Jackson there?
Jess wasn't there.
There was one more. Was there one more person besides Michelle as a witness? Was it just Michelle and Lane?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Maybe it's all they could get a hold of.
Yeah. Middle of the night, people are sleeping. Yeah. And everybody's preparing for tomorrow, for their big...
Yeah.
That's true. I guess if
the
it's going
next
to be
day.
spur of the moment, you can't just call everybody.
There's your suspension of disbelief.
I thought it was very natural that she wouldn't invite Emily. She would want this private moment because she doesn't want her mom involved in anything. She wants everything on her terms.
I didn't have a strong reaction to it. It felt like typical Lorelai.
Yeah.
So, whether we didn't get to see the full town, I guess, is where your heart's going to lie, and it didn't bother me that we didn't. So.
Yeah, because we already got the big town goodbye at the end of the original series, so I don't feel like we needed it here.
Mm-hmm. Besides, it wouldn't have made for a very good setting for the last
last 4 words.
Mm-hmm.
I liked that it wasn't the whole town in like a traditional TV wedding, because we've seen that so much. And I actually got more out of Luke and Lorelai's conversation in the kitchen, where he was like, it doesn't matter, we're going to make this happen, oh my god, you're breaking up with me, post-Wild, than I did from the actual ceremony. Because it felt like their normal sort of pacing back and forth.
Mm-hmm. Luke and Lorelai happily ever after. And now Emily goes on a totally different trajectory. I never expected Emily to end up here. I don't know about you guys. Mm-hmm. Emily kind of decides, in a nutshell, she's had it. She's done. She was inducting a potential new member to the DAR, who was this little blonde trophy wife that they knew would never get in anyway. And she says the word bullshit a couple times, talks about tits that the little blonde woman has, and quits and storms out. Thoughts on that wonderful Emily moment?
I loved it.
Yeah.
A lot. I posted on Facebook, Emily Gilmore is a badass right at that point.
She's a badass bitch, is what she is.
I mean, yeah, that was a little bit of a twist, and it was a refreshing twist, and I don't know that I have any more words for it. It was fun. I gasped a little bit when she did it. I was like, whoa.
But it made sense.
It made sense. It was organic for her character. She had just been through a big, big loss. Her life is changing, and to hell with the old stuff. It was awesome.
So. Epic was what I was thinking as it was happening. It was really going there.
I would just echo everybody. I loved it. It was so funny.
Mm-hmm. And this kind of starts Emily then down the path of she's decided she's going to sell the Gilmore homestead. She's going to sell the mansion after all this time. And she decides to move to Nantucket. She's always wanted a place in the Cape. So she decides, hell with it, I'm old. I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to do it now and be where I want to be happiest, away from all this social politicalness that happens in her normal world. And she decides to take Berta and Berta's entire family with her to the Cape so she won't be alone. One of my favorite things from Emily in this moment, real quick, I just kind of wanted to mention, is when she's telling Lorelai about it and that the house is called the Clam Shack. Mm-hmm. And I think Lorelai asks if she's going to change the name or why is it called the Clam Shack. And Emily comes back with, well, the previous owners called it the Clam Shack. I guess Vagina House was taken.
Yeah. She's going to call it the Sandcastle now.
Yeah, she's going to call it the Sandcastle now.
And her with the whales and the spears.
Yeah, she becomes a museum guide at the whaling museum or something.
Scaring children.
That's her way. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, but I know we talked about in the previous podcast, we're not really sure, I think what Kylie said, where Lorelai gets her genetics, where does she get the spirit from? And I think she gets it from Emily. Just Emily doesn't show it. I feel like it's a very Lorelai thing to do, go be a museum person who just scares little children half to death.
Or did Emily learn something from her daughter?
It's true, too.
They did have like a running fight, disagreement through all 4 episodes of this, and then I think the resolution of it comes in fall, right, where she calls her mom at like early in the morning and tells her the story about her dad.
Yep.
And then I think from there, then Emily kind of starts to move forward and put all these pieces together.
Yeah, because we come to find out over the course of these 4 episodes that one of the reasons Emily and Lorelai are fighting this time around is because of what Lorelai said at her father's wake or his funeral. And that's why she calls her mom to tell this is what I should have said.
Well, because actually, I don't know if it was a wake, it was a gathering of friends, and Emily had asked the friends to all share, and Lorelai too, a story about Richard, just to enjoy, the memories and the camaraderie, and Lorelai, being typical Lorelai, was so kind of obsessing with the fact that her and her dad struggled to get along for such a long time that she didn't want to be put on the spot. So she kept hiding and she kept hiding. And I don't even remember exactly what she said. But she said something that was particularly awkward and inappropriate for the social setting she was in, which then, of course, led to the whole therapy and all of it. And so after Lorelai has her life epiphanies, doing wild for 5 minutes, she calls her mom
and says
and tells her the story.
I think it was of her 13th birthday or something. Yeah,
it was a very good arc, and
for both of them.
It gave a sense of completion.
So. And another kind of things change, but they stay the same. Lorelai, after she comes home, and I believe this is before the wedding, she has this epiphany about wanting to purchase an annex for the Dragonfly, purchase it in town, because some people like to stay in town. That would give them enough room for the spa or additional amenities like Michelle had wanted. And in order to make this happen, she calls her mom and asks for a loan. Lorelai really makes the case of, hey, Luke doesn't want to finance his diner, but we could finance and franchise the inn. We could use that money for this purpose instead. To which Emily agrees, but with terms.
Of course.
So just like Friday night dinners, Luke and Lorelai and whatever children they have need to spend 2 weeks with her in Nantucket at the Sandcastle every summer and 1 week at Christmas every year. I felt that was kind of a nice resolution to their relationship as well.
And a good bookend on the series is together. So.
Yes. We got a couple last cameos. Dean and Suki.
The Dean one was forced. But hey, he looks like Jared Padalecki now. Hey, he looks like the Sam I know. So that one was a little forced. Like, oh hey, how are you? I'm good. We're in the grocery store. Cool. And we're done. So.
Yeah, this is where we had our first kiss. Oh, I'm going to pay for the cornstarch this time. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. And now he's married with a couple of kids out in Philadelphia or Pittsburgh or something.
They should have said Kansas if they wanted to be doubly meta, but that's okay.
And then Suki, we got the Melissa McCarthy moment.
I felt that was forced too.
Yep.
It would have been better if she had just stayed out of the whole thing, I think. If she wasn't going to devote more time to it.
Yeah. But I think there was such a fan controversy earlier in 2016 when they were starting to film, and
she said she wasn't.
She hadn't been asked to come back, and then there was this back and forth of, Amy Palladino, she was like, no, but we called her and her people never got back to us, and there was this big verbal thing, and she just said, no, like, Melissa, come, anytime you just let us know, we will have a scene written for you, and we will make it happen in however much time we have. They wanted her there, but she's busy.
I don't know, I thought the explanation for where Suki had been was a little weird.
Oh, because wasn't she on like a retreat, or she was like at a...
She was in a vegetable cult herself.
She a different one than Liz and TJ. But.
She was off in the mountains growing things and thought it was super cool.
Yeah, because she was only supposed to be gone 6 months, and then she's been gone for over a year, I think they said. 2 years. And
but
so...
she has kids and a family. Like, she wouldn't just... Anyway.
That's
I just thought it was...
Yeah, again, out of character for her, too.
It was just weak.
Yeah. But then they had these, like, pop-up chefs in the inn, because pop-ups are all the rage now with millennials. So they'd have, like, Rachel Ray came in for one, and another couple of famous chefs came in for another minute or two.
Yeah, that was hand-fisted. Yeah. I didn't care for it.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Okay, so shall we go to the final 4 words?
More things we don't like.
The final 4 words are...
Mom.
Yeah. I'm pregnant. That is how the original series was supposed to have ended.
And if she had been 22, it might have been okay.
It might have been okay. But now that she's 32, I feel like, girl, you know what birth control is.
Also, at 22, girl. Seriously, though.
And it's Logan's baby.
Are you sure?
Do we know it's not the Wookiee?
We do, because she would have been showing by the time fall came around if she got pregnant during spring.
We can't hope that it's just somehow magically?
Milo went on one of the talk shows, might have been Kimmel, and said it's not.
And he said no. He said there's no way, because unless... He's like, the last person she slept with was Logan at the early part of fall.
That would match up to the whole Christopher Lorelai.
Exactly. So it's when you're looking...
Because Logan is supposed to be Christopher.
He's her Christopher. That's why they created Logan, to give Rory a Christopher.
Okay, waited for this, and then something happens in the final moment of, yep, let's do some more episodes. I'm ready to watch some more.
I was yelling.
Yeah, I was so angry.
I think I was a silent angry.
Me too. I sat there just with Where You Lead I Will Follow started to play, and I'm like, there is no way that's the ending.
I'm like, that it's not.
So you were angry that was the ending, not what the ending was?
Both.
Oh.
I'm angry that's the ending, that
they didn't alter the plan to change the current circumstances.
Well, they did. They just put it at the end of her current.
I don't know,
path.
but it didn't make as much sense.
Well,
I don't think it would have made sense before either, though.
No,
it would have made more. It would have made more sense at the end of season 7 had the Palladino stayed on board.
Well, and not only going back to season 7, but it would have, in the context of Just a Year in the Life, if it would have been at the end of winter or maybe partway through spring, so that they could just continue it on naturally. It's like she's mirroring her mom makes sense to me, just given the rest of the series. But just the fact that it was, again, another, here's a giant cliffhanger moment.
I mean, the giant cliffhanger, yeah, and if that's where they leave it, then I would be like... Well, that's just stupid.
And for me,
you had a nice ending, and now you've added this. Oh, I'm 32 and I'm pregnant ending.
But I don't see it as a cliffhanger, because they, if they decide not to make more episodes, which they hadn't planned on, that's the ending. It's just showing the circle of life. Things just happen.
Being single and pregnant at 32 is a big difference than being pregnant and single. 22.
Right.
But how would leaving the original series with these 4 words... Now, you're assuming that there would have been a season 8, or a season 9, or a season 10.
I'm assuming it would have been season 7, as far as we are aware. That's
the end.
That's all we know.
So you would have rather have seen it Rory 22 and pregnant, and not on this hopeful trajectory with...
No, I'm very happy with how season 7 ended. I would not have... The fact that this was the ending she had in mind...
That part confused... I think the fact that this is the ending in general confuses me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's not when it was placed. It feels more awkward now than if they would have stayed on for season 7 and had it then.
I guess I don't buy that Netflix's intention was to ever have this only be 4 episodes.
Yeah, me too.
It would have invested the time and all of the build-up towards it and bringing on the whole series if they didn't intend it to go beyond this. I think this was a testing the waters for more interest.
I agree with that.
Mm-hmm. I mean, because it has made them a lot of money. They got a ton of new subscribers just for this. Like, when they announced that this was happening, their subscriber numbers went up like crazy. And it was one of the most watched Netflix originals. Not the most, but it's up there. It's within the top 5. Yeah, but there's a lot of controversy around this ending.
I guess I'm struggling with the controversy. If the controversy is, well, this was how they were going to end it originally, then I guess I see that, but that's moot because they didn't.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So if the controversy is, oh, she's 32 and pregnant and so what? I don't know why I would be mad at that either. She's already spent 4 lengthy episodes being lost and confused. Mm-hmm. What's the creme de la creme of all of her poor choices? Getting pregnant by somebody that, who knows what, maybe Logan. I mean, that just seems like at least it's following the path they set her on, which I'm very big on, as you know. Continuity is a thing for me. So there's that. If the controversy is that, oh, it's a cliffhanger and there may not be more episodes, that I can get behind, because I think I definitely agree with Sam. I think this was a test and they wanted to set it up in the best possible way to maybe make it a more permanent thing. I don't think that any of the major stars, with the exception of Milo, and Melissa, have any gigs that have been continuous since Gilmore Girls ended.
Lauren Graham is going to be starring in a new sitcom this fall called like Laura from HR or something. And then
that's
Alexis,
definitely going to pilot in the fall.
I think it's it already is pilot. They've been talking about it. I think it's in casting right now.
Well, casting is different than
I'm not sure that, but there is talk that she's signed on to do this and things are happening. Then Alexis Bledel, she is in The Handmaid's Tale on Hulu, but that's I think a one and done miniseries. Mm-hmm. But as far as I know of, no one else is really, and no one really did much between Gilmore Girls original and Year in the Life besides Lauren Graham, and Kelly Bishop had that mini stint on Bunheads. And
plus they all made time for this, so if they're going to stick with the 4-episode format. I mean, that's a brilliant little thing that they can do, just capitalizing on what other series have done, is to introduce, here's new for your nostalgia, and this one's really popular. Mm-hmm. I mean, anybody who even if you don't watch Gilmore Girls, you know that people watch Gilmore Girls, or you know people who do watch Gilmore Girls. In my case, look, they're all here. So, it's just, I don't know, I guess I don't get the controversy, and I wasn't left with, oh my god, that was a horrible ending. I thought, well, okay, there has to be more episodes, number one, because there was a little doozy, earth-shattering bomb, and who the hell is the father? We gotta know that, It's
generally assumed and accepted that it's Logan.
But what if it's the Wookiee?
It can't be with the timeline.
And the parallels between... And my mom argued that we argued for like a month about that.
Yeah, that was the point, because Logan was set up to be her Christopher, and that's what Christopher did. No, it's generally accepted that it's Logan. I mean, even the guy who plays Logan, I'm not going to try to pronounce his last name, he even went on saying that. He's like, it has to be Logan.
I guess I was just disappointed for all of those reasons and none of those reasons. It's a cliffhanger, and it's a stupid way to end a series, in my opinion. At least it's not going to make anybody happy. It just didn't seem to fit. And I was expecting something awesome, and it wasn't. I don't know.
I was just saying they just built up, the final 4 words so long in the lead up to it being on Netflix and, live day, that I think it was set up to be disappointing for most people.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, it was just out of character for Rory. I mean, I know she made poor choices and but I just feel like...
I feel like I knew it was coming. Even like as we were watching A Year in the Life, I was like, I'm pretty sure that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, once she went to go have that conversation with Christopher, that's kind of where they were setting things in motion for that ending.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know that it really made me mad though, the last 4 words, because I can rationalize it away. Like, I can go, well, it's parallel with her mom's story. It sets us up nicely to like look ahead and go, yep, that's what it's going to be, just recycled in Rory's own themes that she's had through her life. So yeah, that makes sense, and it was not.
So running parallel is Jess Rory's Luke.
Yes.
I mean, did you see the way he looked at her through the window in fall? Yeah, he's not over her. It's never over.
No,
for Jess.
Go Jess.
I would argue that. I mean, though, to some extent, the whole parallel life is your mother thing, it's a little, I don't know, just not.
It is, but it's not really parallel because she's not 16.
It's true, right.
So she's going to be in a much better place should she have this baby, which I assume she will, because she is 32 and she has a mom who's been through it before.
And she has a good relationship with her mother.
Yeah.
And she has a job as the editor of the Stars Hollow Gazette. Lorelai...
It's volunteer.
The town of Stars Hollow, when they find out that Rory is going to have a baby, they will probably come up with a way to pay her.
This is true.
Because they love her.
A Stars Hollow GoFundMe.
Yeah, she's the collective daughter of Stars Hollow. This will be the collective grandchild of Stars Hollow. They will make it work. This is a question that I brought up in the Fuller House podcast, and I want to ask it here too, because I think it's still pretty relevant. Reboots, revivals, they're all the rage right now. So how do you think this revival compares to some of the others that have been out there? The X-Files had a revival. Fuller House is a revival reboot combo. Girl Meets World, which was just sadly canceled. Arrested Development, 24, MacGyver. I mean, all these shows are coming back around. How does this compare with some of the other ones out there? Have you watched any of the other ones?
I've watched a lot of them, not all of them. Some of them I passed on, like I will not watch the MacGyver reboot, because I just can't see anyone else besides Richard Dean Anderson being him, whatever. I think this is middle of the road. I think it captures the nostalgia. It doesn't really add much new. This is purely fan service was the phrase used. I like it. I think that's what it is. The X-Files advanced plot, that one was pretty good. I'm not a fan of the Fuller House, but that's why you're moderating that one. So I think there's been successes and there's been lack of them. Some people like others more than, and I think it's going to just depend on what your original show fandom was. The X-Files is my favorite show, so naturally I'm going to watch or like the X-Files. But as far as Gilmore Girls, this, I think it did what it set out to do. I think it was messy and not necessarily the best they could have done, but they gave it a good try, and it isn't any better or worse than a lot.
I would concur with all of that.
I haven't watched any of the other ones.
Yeah, because I've only watched Fuller House and Girl Meets World, and I did watch the Netflix revival of Arrested Development too. I think in comparison to the ones that I have seen, I think this one is probably on the stronger end. Again, I didn't watch X-Files or anything like that, so I can't compare it to those, but I in general, it could have been stronger, but I don't think it was horrible. I was happy mostly with fall, so that kind of saved it for me. Yeah. With this revival, how does this stand up against other shows that are currently out there? Is it still one of your favorites? If you were to consider A Year in the Life its own thing, how does it compare to the original? Is it better? Is it worse? Is it better than what's out there now? Where does this rank for you?
The original is better. And I don't think I'm qualified to really answer the rest of it, just because I think the rest of you like Gilmore Girls more than I do.
I think that the original is definitely better. The revival is just fun. I don't even consider it in the same category as like the other shows that I watch. Okay. So it was completely separate for me. Not as good generally.
Okay.
The rewatchability of it isn't there like I have with the first one. If I have 2 hours to sit down and devote to the TV, and my two options are a couple random episodes from the original or one of the seasons, I definitely grab the original series. And since it's maybe on Netflix is why I wouldn't necessarily, to echo Krista, it wouldn't really go into that same pot of this is what I'm going to watch this week, but I'd probably watch stuff on my DVR before I'd watch this again.
I wouldn't need to rewatch it.
I mean, I'll probably rewatch it if there's a season 2, so that I can refresh my memory, because that's how I tend to do things. Is at least watch the last episode of the previous season before I start watching a new season.
I agree with all of you guys. I have not watched it since I finished it the weekend that it came out. I don't feel the need to. I don't know. It's good. The original's still better. I mean, but that's the case with most things. The original is usually the better one.
I did go back and watch it a second time a week ago, just to sort of refresh my memory of what happened, and knowing how it ended, see if I could pick anything else up. And it didn't have the same, like, I've watched the original series through at least 6 times, and there's always something new there, and I didn't feel like I got as much of it, or as much out of it, going through it again as I did with the original.
So would you recommend this to others?
I would only recommend it if you're a Gilmore Girls fan.
Yep.
Yeah, because you really can't watch it on its own.
You can't watch it on its own. It's too connected and too self-referential. So if you don't like Gilmore Girls, you're not going to like this one. That's basically what it boils down to.
All right, so with that, I think we've concluded our Gilmore Girls A Year in the Life podcast. So I would like to thank once again Samantha, Krista, Chelsea, and Kylie for joining me. And, if we reconvene, it'll only be if Netflix gives A Year in the Life a season 2, because as of this point, they are in preliminary talks, but there has been no confirmation.
CPU! Exclamation point was produced by Back Pocket Productions, run by yours truly, the Chief Couch Potato. By the way, I like to read this. And hails from Grand Rapids, Michigan. Please, if you like what you hear, take the time to rate us on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, or Google Play. That means give us stars or a few words telling everybody to listen, because that's what we'd like you to do. Or comment on YouTube so that we can spread the word. If you have suggestions on shows we might consider that we're not already doing, contact us at our website, couchpotatoesunite.wordpress.com, by email, couchpotatoesunitepodcast@gmail.com, or via Facebook and Twitter. But we add new and old shows to chat about around the water cooler all the time. Plus, we have a lot more new episodes coming down the pike. We always do, because so many people like so many different shows in the CPU core. We're everywhere. Search us, find us. Websites, we're here, we're there, we're on the internet. Find us. Make sure you subscribe to the blog, any one of our channels, or our social media accounts, and stay up on new events and episodes. You can catch up on all of the Gilmore Girls everything on Netflix, who owes us money for as many times as we say their name. And as Kristen said, no official announcement has been made about future seasons of Gilmore Girls or Gilmore Girls Years in the Life. But if we do, CPU will certainly stay abreast of the coverage. We'll reconvene this panel and we'll talk Gilmore Girls, should Netflix decide to keep that nostalgia flowing. Until next time, though, keep listening, keep watching, stay tuned. Bye-bye.